Okay, so today we're going to dive into something I think is pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
It's
Should be fun.
digital twins in the built environment, which is
Yeah.
a phrase that I feel like I'm hearing more and more.
You are, yeah.
So whether you're,
From-
coming from the BIM world or you're just hearing about this for the first time,
Right.
we're going to break it all down and really give you kind of the core ideas here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got a really cool position paper, actually, from the IBS Digital Twin Integration Subcommittee.
Okay.
And the cool thing about that is this is really a collaboration of experts from academia, industry, and government.
Wow.
So they've all come together and said, what are the key things we need to know about digital twins in the built environment?
Okay.
And that's what we're going to unpack today.
So,
And specifically what we want to do is extract the 5 key arguments
yeah.
from this paper.
Okay.
Then identify what are the main challenges that are preventing building owners from actually adopting digital twins.
Yeah. That's a big one, I think.
It is
For a lot of folks, there's a lot of hesitation to be an early adopter of new technology.
totally.
So we'll dive into that, and then we want to kind of offer some guidance and say, okay, if you're a building owner, where do you start?
Right. Where you even begin with this whole thing.
Yeah. No,
Um,
let's jump in.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So the first thing that the NIBS subcommittee really emphasizes is this integration of BIM,
Right.
which is building information modeling and digital twins.
Yes.
And they really see this as an opportunity, not just to kind of have 2 separate tools, but really an opportunity for innovation, for driving efficiency,
Yeah.
better teamwork across the industry.
It's interesting because I think that's the biggest piece is that people don't see this as a way to actually enhance teamwork and collaboration.
Right.
So it's not just about saving money. It's
Right.
not just about efficiency.
Right.
It's about actually working better together
Yeah.
and driving better outcomes for everybody.
Yeah, and they really see it as an engine for sustainability and improving building performance as well,
Absolutely.
which are all obviously things we want.
Huge issues, right?
Yeah.
You-
So BIM has been around for a while, and I feel like there's maybe some folks out there who are saying like, well, we already have BIM. Why do we need a digital twin?
Right. And that's where that distinction is so important, right?
Yeah.
BIM has really established, really valuable processes and data structures for the industry.
Right.
But then the digital twin comes in and says, okay, how do we actually layer on live responsive information? How do we really make this connected to the real world?
Yeah.
So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're building upon those processes, but we're also addressing those limitations
Okay.
that the traditional BIM process maybe has within the life cycle of a building.
So an example of this integration working
Yeah.
would be like clash detection during construction, where
Yeah.
you've got sensors on site feeding information back into the model.
Exactly. So imagine real-time clash detection, right?
Wow.
So you've got sensors on site feeding data back into that BIM model through the digital twin, and it's flagging issues instantly.
Wow.
That's the power of integration.
That's huge.
So you're avoiding costly rework. You're improving that communication between the field and the office.
Yeah.
That's a huge example of the efficiency that we're talking about.
So their second big point is this idea that public perception actually matters.
Right. And this one might throw some people off, I think.
Yeah.
Because when we think about digital twins, we think about all this complex technology.
Yeah. You don't really think about like
But they're arguing.
Joe Schmo on the street.
Yeah, public perception, how the general public views both BIM and digital twins, is a huge factor in making this integration successful.
Okay.
And their argument is that we haven't really leveraged that public understanding very effectively
Right.
to bridge those two, to really bring those two worlds together.
So they're saying like the public doesn't even really understand what a digital twin is.
In many cases, that's true, right?
Right.
And so how can we expect them to embrace it? How can we expect, building owners and developers to invest in it
Yeah.
if there's not that public understanding and support?
Because they're the ones ultimately going to be using the buildings. And so if they're not buying into this as a good idea,
Exactly.
then it's going to be harder to get the investment.
And it can actually hinder the progress we're making in the industry.
Yeah.
So it's a really important point that they bring up.
So why does public perception matter so much?
Well, yeah, the paper suggests that the general public, even without deep technical knowledge, they shape demand.
Okay.
Their expectations, right, which are often formed by digital experiences in other sectors,
Okay.
can influence what building owners and investors prioritize.
Okay.
So, for instance, think about the increasing public demand for sustainable buildings.
Right.
The public desire can actually drive investment in digital twin technology
Okay.
for things like optimizing energy consumption.
Mm.
So you see that link between public perception and technology adoption.
Okay.
But if the industry's message isn't aligned with that public understanding,
Right.
it can create a lot of confusion and actually slow down that progress.
So, like, if people expect a building to, like, be smart, quote unquote, and they're basing that on their experiences with other technologies, right? Their phone or their car.
Exactly.
And then they get into a building and it doesn't do any of that stuff.
And it's clunky.
Then they're going to be disappointed.
Absolutely.
So the third big point is use cases.
Yeah, use cases, use cases,
Yes.
use cases. And they really stress that having clear, well-defined use cases
Yes.
is absolutely critical
It's just fundamental.
for success.
Yes.
And they say this should come before you even start thinking about technologies.
100%. They argue that these use cases should be established before you consider the how,
Okay.
before you consider technology selection, before you consider deployment.
So what is a use case for somebody who doesn't know? Yeah. So a use case is basically like a narrative
Yeah.
that inspires the development of these digital twin solutions.
Okay.
It provides a measurable target for those BIM models and those digital twins.
Okay.
So essentially it's answering the question of why are we doing this?
Okay.
What specific problems are we trying to solve with BIM and digital twins?
Okay.
Is it about fine-tuning energy usage? Is it about streamlining those maintenance schedules?
Oh.
Or is it about really improving how people experience a building?
Okay. So, like, are people getting lost trying to find the bathroom? Or
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by focusing on those real-world applications, first, building owners can make much more informed decisions
Okay.
about where to put their technology dollars
Yeah.
and make sure that they're seeing a clear return on that investment.
It's like having a destination before you.
It is. It's like
Think about the map or the car.
exactly. Have that destination in mind.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So their fourth point is really about execution.
Yes. So how do we actually do this thing?
How do we actually get BIM and digital twins working together?
Right.
And their emphasis is on understanding and leveraging the unique strengths of each.
Okay.
So they see BIM as that foundational structure, that detailed, robust, often static representation of the building.
Right.
And that's what the AECO digital twin is built upon.
Okay.
So it's not about throwing BIM out the window.
Right.
It's about saying, okay, how can BIM inform and actually really power this digital twin?
Okay.
And they highlight that agility and simplicity are super important
Okay.
for a user-friendly framework
Right.
that streamlines those complex AECO processes.
And that makes a lot of sense, right? Because if it's too complicated, then nobody's going to use it.
Nobody's going to use it.
Yeah.
They also talk about this system of systems approach.
Okay. So what does that mean, system of systems?
Yeah, so think of it as integrating all the different platforms you have.
Okay.
So your building management system, your energy monitoring software security systems, all of that feeding into this digital twin.
To provide that holistic view of the building's performance.
Yeah.
So it's not just one system. It's about connecting everything together.
And their fifth point is really around the data.
Yes. The data frameworks.
And how they see this synergy between
Yes.
BIM data and digital twin data.
Absolutely.
So they say BIM provides that really granular, static information about the building.
Right. All the details about the building elements, the materials, the systems.
Yeah.
It's all there in the BIM model.
Okay.
But the digital twin brings in that dynamic element.
Okay.
It reflects the real world changes that are happening to the building over time.
Okay, so it's like how the building's actually being used.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they highlight these concepts of the digital thread, and decoupled data is being really important.
Okay, so what's decoupled data?
Yeah, so traditionally BIM data might be locked within specific project phases or software platforms,
Okay.
making it really hard to access and use across different tools
Right.
and throughout the building's life cycle. Decoupled data says, okay, let's take that information. Let's make it available in a more open, standardized way.
Okay.
So different systems can easily access and use it.
Okay.
So your energy management platform can talk to your maintenance scheduling software.
Okay.
And it's all seamless because that data is decoupled.
Okay.
And then the digital thread acts as that continuous flow of information connecting all stages of the asset's life cycle.
So from the very beginning, when it's just an idea, for when they're actually...
Construction, operation, demolition, even.
Wow, okay.
It's ensuring that data isn't lost.
Yeah.
That it's not trapped in silos.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So to quickly recap the 5 key messages of this subcommittee,
let's do it.
They're saying that integration is key.
Yes.
Not duplication.
Not reinventing the wheel.
Public perception matters.
It's huge.
Use cases should drive everything.
Absolutely.
BIM is the foundation.
Yes.
And then these data frameworks, when combined, are really powerful.
They create something much greater than the sum of their parts.
Yeah, so they also get into what's preventing people from adopting digital twins.
Yeah, because we all know there are a lot of challenges.
Yeah, so what are some of the big roadblocks?
Well, the first one they point to is actually something we've already talked about a bit.
Okay.
It's that lack of clear understanding about what a digital twin actually is.
Okay.
And how it relates to BIM.
Right.
You know, people are uncertain, are these terms interchangeable?
Right.
Does a digital twin offer unique benefits that justify new investment?
Because we already spent all this money and time on BIM.
Exactly.
Why do we need to do this other thing?
And if you can't articulate that value proposition,
right,
it's really hard to get buy-in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's a big obstacle.
Okay. What else?
Well, the second obstacle is that public perception that we talked about.
Okay.
But now it's seen as a potential source of disruption.
Okay. How so?
Because the messaging around digital twins isn't always consistent, especially from companies outside the traditional AECO sector.
Okay.
It can create a lot of confusion and conflicting expectations.
Okay.
So building owners might be seeing marketing materials or hearing from vendors who are highlighting certain features or advantages that don't actually align with the practical realities of implementing digital twins.
Right, so they're overpromising.
Or they might be driven by hype cycles.
Right.
Rather than actual well-informed needs.
Okay.
So it creates a lot of noise.
Right.
That makes it hard for building owners to make informed decisions.
So basically, like, the marketing is getting ahead.
Yeah, a little bit.
The technology.
It can happen.
Okay, so what's the third obstacle?
The third one is the complexity and variety of digital twin approaches.
Okay.
So unlike BIM modeling, which has become relatively standardized, digital twins can encompass a huge range of data points and interactions.
Okay.
This means building owners need to define very specific, focused use cases. And that can be a really daunting task, especially when they're just starting to explore the technology.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know.
Exactly. It's overwhelming.
So I don't even know what questions to ask.
Right.
Yeah.
And where to even begin.
Yeah. Okay, what's number 4?
The fourth obstacle is the shift in mindset that's required around data and workflows.
Okay.
You know, building owners are used to BIM's project-centric data exchanges.
Okay.
These tend to be transactional data is shared at specific milestones.
Right.
But digital twins require a move towards dynamic, continuous data interaction across those systems.
So it's not just like, here's a snapshot at this point in time.
Exactly.
Like, it's like a constant flow.
It's a constant stream of information.
Okay.
And that can be a really big shift for people to make.
Because you have to have all that infrastructure to collect the data in real time.
Exactly. You need the systems in place to manage that data, to analyze it.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Right. What's the 5th one?
The 5th one is the evolving state of standards in the digital twin landscape.
So there's no, like, universal standard for...
Not yet.
For a digital twin.
There's no single comprehensive digital twin standard that everybody adheres to.
Okay.
And the paper points out that we need to focus on those microtransactions of data.
Okay.
The way individual devices and systems exchange information.
Okay.
And so this lack of a unified standard creates a lot of uncertainty for building owners who are looking for clear guidelines.
Right. If you're trying to put together, a specification or something for a digital twin and there's no standard to point to, it's really difficult.
Yeah. How do you even know what to ask for?
Yeah.
And how do you ensure interoperability between all these different systems?
Yeah, so these are some pretty...
They're big challenges.
Hefty challenges.
Yeah.
So given all that, how should a building owner even begin to invest in this?
Right. Well, the good news is the paper provides some very clear direction on this.
Okay, good.
So the first and most crucial step is to define those clear and specific use cases.
Okay.
that directly address their business objectives.
So figure out what problems.
What are the pain points
you're trying to solve?
What are the outcomes you're hoping to achieve?
Yeah, and make sure that those translate into practical applications.
Real-world applications.
Across the entire life cycle of the building.
Yeah, across the entire life cycle.
Yeah.
So starting with that, what do we want to achieve?
Right.
And then we can start thinking about the how.
Yeah.
But those use cases need to come first.
So step 2.
Step 2, recognize that BIM can be a really powerful foundation for building a digital twin.
Okay.
So if a building owner has already invested in BIM, they should absolutely leverage those existing BIM models and data.
Yeah. Don't start from scratch if you don't have to.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
But understand that some supplemental data might be needed.
Okay.
And some restructuring of that data to align with the digital twin framework.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So number 3.
Number 3, prioritize agility and simplicity in that initial digital twin solution.
Okay.
So the paper suggests a minimum viable product approach.
Okay.
So start small, start focusing.
But prove the concept, basically.
Demonstrate the value based on those primary use cases.
Yeah.
And then allow for scalable and adaptable growth over time.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Don't try to boil the ocean on day one.
Right.
Just start with something manageable and then build from there.
So number 4.
Number 4, understand the difference between static BIM data and dynamic digital twin data.
Okay.
So BIM provides that snapshot in time.
Right.
But the digital twin brings in real-time data from IoT sensors from control systems. What the paper calls digital shadow and cyber-physical systems.
Okay, so that's like the Internet of Things.
Exactly. All those sensors and devices that are collecting data about how the building is actually performing.
And feeding that back into the digital twin.
Exactly. So you're getting those real-time insights that BIM data just can't provide.
Yeah.
So that's a key distinction to understand.
And the 5th and final piece of advice?
Engage with industry resources. Organizations like the NIBS Digital Twin Integration Subcommittee.
Okay.
The Digital Twin Consortium. These are groups that offer a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
Best practices. Insights into those evolving standards.
Yeah, because those standards are going to be changing rapidly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a rapidly evolving landscape.
Okay, so if I'm a building owner and I'm just thinking about getting started with this, the 5 pieces of advice are: define the use cases.
Yes.
Leverage your existing BIM data.
Build upon that foundation.
Start small.
Start simple.
Understand the difference between the static and the dynamic data.
Absolutely.
And engage with industry resources.
Connect with those experts.
Yeah. This has been a really
great discussion.
Fascinating look at digital twins, and I hope this has given our listeners a good foundation for
shortcut to understanding.
For understanding this really complex topic.
Absolutely.
So the last thought I want to leave everybody with is, we talked about all this data.
Yeah.
We talked about how the systems are becoming increasingly interconnected.
Yes.
How demand for real-time data is growing.
It is.
How do you think these concepts of digital twins and digital threads are going to really revolutionize the entire life cycle of our buildings and infrastructure?
It's a big question.
It is a big question, and I don't think we have all the answers yet.
No, but it's something we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, and so maybe that's something that our listeners can explore further on their own.
Yeah.
Maybe dive into the source material that we talked about today.
Yeah, great resources out there.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll catch you next time.